If you've been with us from the beginning, you already know the rules. These aren't mainstream films or algorithm favorites. We've already explored 4 parts in this series, and this is the 5th and last chapter in our Hidden Mind-bending movies. If you've missed any of them, you can access the previous episodes directly from the top right corner of the screen. Here are 7 films that function less like stories and more like transmissions from somewhere else. The Color of Pomegranates, 1969. Sergei Parajanov directed it in Soviet Armenia as a biographical portrait of the 18th century poet Sayat Nova. That description is technically accurate and entirely useless. What Parajanov created instead was a series of tableaus that feel closer to medieval tapestries than cinema. Each frame is composed like a museum piece, frozen and ritualistic. Actors stare directly into the camera without moving. Objects are arranged with obsessive symmetry. There is almost no conventional narrative. The Soviet censors didn't know what to do with it. They banned Parajanov shortly after and imprisoned him for years on fabricated charges. The film itself was mutilated, re-edited by the state, and released in a version Parajanov never approved. What remains feels like watching someone else's religious vision through scratched glass. It wasn't made to be enjoyed. It was made to be witnessed. Enemy, 2013. Denis Villeneuve adapted a José Saramago novel about a man who discovers his exact double living in the same city. Jake Gyllenhaal plays both versions of himself. The film takes place in Toronto, but the color grading makes it look like the entire city is covered in dust and sodium light. Everything feels suffocated. The movie operates on dream logic, where repetition and déjà vu replace conventional plot progression. There are spiders. Giant ones, small ones, metaphorical ones. Villeneuve never explained what they mean, and Gyllenhaal gave interviews where he admitted he didn't fully understand the script while filming. The final shot is one of the most disturbing images in recent cinema, and it arrives without warning or context. Online forums have spent over a decade trying to decode it. No consensus has emerged. Some films are designed to be solved. This one was designed to resist solution. Homme Qui Dort, 1974. The English title is The Man Who Sleeps, though the original French captures the passivity better. It was directed by Bernard Quayssan and Georges Perec, adapted from Perec's own novel. The entire film is narrated in second person. A young student in Paris gradually withdraws from all human contact. He stops attending classes, stops seeing friends, stops answering his door. The camera follows him as he wanders through empty streets and sits motionless in his room for hours. There is no inciting incident, no psychological explanation, no redemption arc. The narration is detached and clinical, describing his actions as if observing an insect. The film was shot in black and white on a minimal budget with a non-professional actor. It screened at Cannes and then disappeared for decades. Watching it feels like slow suffocation. There is no catharsis because there is no dramatic structure to provide one. It simply ends the way consciousness can simply stop engaging with the world. Beyond the Black Rainbow, 2010. Panos Cosmatos made this as his first feature, apparently after years of fever dreams and migraines following a childhood illness. It takes place in 1983 inside a New Age research facility called the Arborea Institute, where a scientist keeps a young woman sedated and imprisoned. The plot is almost incidental. What matters is the texture, analog synthesizers, extreme slow motion, corridors lit in red and blue, long takes of nothing happening. The film stock itself looks degraded, as if it had been buried and recently excavated. Cosmatos has said he wanted to recreate the experience of watching late-night cable as a child and half-remembering films that may not have existed. The result feels like a suppressed memory trying to surface. Michael Rogers, who plays the scientist, delivers his lines with a hollow cheerfulness that borders on catatonia. The film was not well received. Critics called it style without substance, which may have been the point. The Double, 2013. Richard Ayoade adapted Dostoevsky's novella and placed it inside a world that feels like bureaucratic purgatory. Jesse Eisenberg plays Simon James, a timid office worker whose existence is so negligible that co-workers forget meeting him minutes after speaking to him. Then his exact duplicate arrives at the office. Same face, same name, but none of the anxiety. This version is confident, charming, effortlessly successful. The double begins absorbing Simon's life piece by piece, his job recognition, his potential romance, his identity. The film is shot in washed-out colors and claustrophobic spaces that suggest Eastern Bloc dystopia mixed with 1980s corporate sterility. Ayoade used practical sets with flickering fluorescent lights and analog technology to create a world unstuck from time. Eisenberg plays both roles, and the technical precision required meant he often acted opposite empty space, responding to his own recorded performance. The film operates as both Kafka adaptation and psychological disintegration. Simon's reality doesn't bend gradually. It collapses in fragments until the question of which one is the original becomes irrelevant. The ending is abrupt and merciless. Ayoade never made another film like this. He retreated into lighter material, as if documenting this particular flavor of erasure had been enough. The Face of Another, 1966. Hiroshi Teshigahara directed this adaptation of a Kobo Abe novel about a scientist whose face is destroyed in an industrial accident. He creates a prosthetic mask so realistic it's indistinguishable from human skin. The mask gives him a new identity, and with it a new personality. He becomes someone else entirely, someone without the moral constraints of his former self. The film is interested in how identity functions as a performance, and how a change in appearance can erode the self from within. Tatsuya Nakadai, who plays the scientist, spends much of the film behind the mask, his real face absent. The film is shot in stark black and white, with clinical precision. There is a parallel subplot about a woman whose face is scarred by the atomic bomb, though the film never directly names Hiroshima. Teshigahara and Oba had previously collaborated on Woman in the Dunes, which became internationally famous. This film did not. It's slower, colder, more philosophically abstract. Watching it feels like observing a psychological experiment in real time. The final act offers no resolution, only the recognition that the mask and the man are no longer separable. La Cité des Enfants Perdus, 1995. The English title is The City of Lost Children. Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Marc Caro directed it as their second feature, following Delicatessen. It takes place in an unnamed port city that exists somewhere between Victorian France and a rusted-out future. A mad scientist who cannot dream kidnaps children to steal their dreams, hoping to reverse his rapid aging. The production design is astonishing. Every frame is crammed with gears, rust, fog, and shadows. Ron Perlman plays a carnival strongman searching for his kidnapped brother. The cast includes a young girl, a gang of orphan thieves, a pair of cloned brothers who share a single consciousness, and a brain floating in a tank. It was an ambitious and expensive production, and it flopped commercially outside France. The tone is too dark for a fairy tale and too stylized for a thriller. Jeunet went on to make Amélie, which was sunlight and whimsy. He never returned to this kind of darkness. Something about it felt like the end of a certain kind of filmmaking, the kind that prioritized grotesque beauty over narrative comfort. The film ends with the scientist aging to death in seconds, his stolen dreams evaporating. The city remains. So, if you've watched all 5 parts, you've probably noticed a pattern. These films leave you alone with the questions. And maybe that's the real reason they stay hidden. If you enjoyed this series, revisiting the earlier parts might reveal things you missed the first time. Thank you for watching.